My name is Cindy Hart. I'm chairman of the Town Road Committee, and we're here tonight to listen to all of you and see what's going on your roads. There won't be any solutions tonight at all, but we'd like to take notes and see many of you roads may have similar problems that collectively could be dealt with in some way. We don't have the answers, but if we will go out, we'll look at your roads. We will contact you and get a list of that, and then we will meet again and see what we can do. I know a lot of the roads haven't had much attention. Anyway, you don't have to be a legal resident, but if you own property and you live on a camp road, you may speak. There's no 2-minute limit, but there's a lot of people. And so we'd appreciate your getting to the point, state your name, what road you're on, and outline your problems. And we may have questions. We'll be taking notes, and this is filmed. We have a representative here from the Selectmen, Elise Miller. She's our liaison. And Dr. Williams from Warrant and Finance, he's our liaison. And our committee could...
I don't know if everybody has signed this, or I think probably everybody has not. There's a sign-up list here. We'd like to know who's here, I think, right?
Oh, exactly, and
there
their information. If you haven't signed it, please do that.
Let me start this somewhere. Where should I start it? Over here? Yeah. Sign it. Don't worry.
Okay, are you ready, Tom? Okay. Whoever wants to come up first, just tell us who you are and what road you're on and give us a little outline of what's going on. Come on up.
Oh, I have to stand up there?
Yeah.
Come on up.
I always wanted to be on TV, you know. So, my name's Bud Moran. I'm representing Eagle Road. We started Eagle Road Association 4 years ago? 5 years ago. And we've slowly been improving our road. We find it very expensive in trying to do things correctly and not have a lot of liability involves engineers. So if we were to do a $2,000 project, it would cost us $4,000 for engineering, you know, and it's, we've looked into state agencies and we have gotten grant money in the past, but that seems to have dried up and we're only partially repaired or brought up to standard. We've done a lot of ditching, put in a lot of gravel, and trying to keep up with the maintenance. But I think it's a slow-going process for any road association because of the liability and needing these engineers, and there's no place to go for help for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we find that a little difficult just to pretty much protect everybody and try and do it right. You know, we've already went through the state. I've been through the DEP course. I've gone to some trainings. We've already done sections of the road to the state requirements because we were using state funds. And it gets very expensive to do it the way the state wants to do it, you know. They'd rather have you use crushed stone rather than round stone, which you could get locally, and
Sure.
I find that one of the most frustrating parts of it is to get the engineering and a little bit of paperwork so nobody gets sued, and it'd be great if the town could, you know, help us out in that regard. You know, we seem to be able to get enough money to buy the gravel and hire the equipment, but when you start hiring engineering firms, it gets very costly. But,
How long is your road?
it's about a half a mile long.
How many properties on it?
30.
Well, there are 52 properties, but 32 cottages.
Yeah, 52 properties.
What do you charge for dues a year?
Well, we're including plowing this year, and it's $120 each. It's gone up to $145.
And how's the collection?
Yeah, 95, almost 100%.
Oh, that's
We're
great.
doing pretty well there.
That's great.
But, that's a report on Eagle.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, bud.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
thank you. But just so I'm clear, your biggest concern here is protection of the association from liability as a consequence of any of the work done, and as a result of the making sure that you are exercising due diligence, you're hiring engineering companies or talking to the state, and you're finding that expensive to do. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
You know, we've had Chris Baldwin down
Yep.
not too long ago to look at a culvert issue that I think it should be the town's responsibility, but it's a culvert up on Garvin Road that dumps a tremendous amount of water down behind the camps on Eagle. It's the problem we have there, it's uncontrolled. Not too long ago, a tree fell down and diverted the flow of the water and just caused a tremendous amount of erosion. You know, it's almost like another little brook or a little stream, but it's,
So that's the stream that comes down from the ball field and goes down across there. Is that right? That drains the swamp in back of the ball field.
oh, this stream is up behind Shields, up
Bill Shields comes
Yeah.
off the hill. Okay.
up on the hill.
All right.
That's an issue I would really like to have the town, if they could give the water a direction. Right now, it just goes amok, and it's a lot of water, and Chris Baldwin looked at it, I was there with Scott Mooney, Ed Walsh, and kinda got nowhere. You know, it's a little
Well, sounds like some kind of retaining structure.
Yeah, detention pond,
They could keep it on the side of the road opposite of Bill Shields' house.
Yeah, yeah.
So it drains down into that pond down at the bottom of the hill
Yeah.
before it goes into Wilson.
Yeah. Okay, we're not gonna come up with fixes tonight,
No,
though.
I'm
We're
just
gonna,
saying.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
There are ways around
That's
it.
where the water used to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
For some reason, I remember we had a lot of rain, and the water came up and flooded a couple of camps on Wilson, and shortly after that, they put in this other culvert. But the water needs to be controlled. You know, it can't
Sure.
just go this way one year and go this way another year,
No,
because
you're absolutely
you're
right.
just causing an awful lot of erosion, and
Have we got your contact information?
it's on the page, yes.
Okay, then I'd like to get in touch with you, and maybe a couple of us can go take a look at it, have you walk with us, point it out, and we'll add that to the list and see what we can find out for you.
I appreciate that.
We've used Chris Baldwin too on our road, and I know they can be really helpful, and you have to do it right when you're on those roads.
Yep, yes. All righty, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Warren, how much is each property will be paying in this association? Yes, sir. 145 per lot. Per lot.
That includes plowing.
It's pretty reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah, that is pretty reasonable. We have roads paying $500 each. Anybody else? Come on up.
My name's Joe DiOrio from Lakeside Drive. Our association takes care of Lakeside Drive, Joe's Road, and Foley Way. We've got about approximately a mile of road that we maintain. I've got a question for the committee here. Is the town having a change of heart? Do they have some money for us?
Well, not yet,
Oh.
but some of us here are looking in that direction.
Okay.
Because I personally feel if we can do this, there's no reason why we shouldn't. And if the laws have changed to enable us to protect the environment and not leave old elderly people on their roads without being plowed, we have not everybody on these roads are wealthy doctors. On almost all of them, there's poverty, and there's people that are stuck down there in the winter that aren't in Florida.
Yep.
So,
Well,
we're trying, let's put it
yeah.
that way.
Yeah, we've been, in fact, your Abbott Road,
Yeah,
Peter White just did all of our work,
I know he did.
did a nice job. We're in the same situation, we're paying $300 a year for dues, and probably 95%, almost 100% is paying. The road's getting in better shape, but I've got a major issue with the town not maintaining the road, and many people do, because it is a through road. People cutting through there from many other roads to go to the dump, to go here and there. We've got dump trucks coming through there to go to the gravel pit.
Yeah,
And then I see roads that are dead end that are town maintained. I don't get that.
well, Lakeside Drive has issues that are different from other roads too. It was a town road and
It was.
I believe we have the documentation on that. It also was always used as a through road, and there really only are two ways around the lake. You've got to go down Lakeside, or you've got to go across Canal. And the Canal Bridge now is not doing well. So if we lost that, then the only other way would be through Lakeside. And when I drove down your road, I saw that you want no through traffic.
Well, yeah.
And I totally understand that. I don't know how this will work with traffic. Tom, maybe you've looked into this in the past as far as traffic and emergency vehicles being able to get from one place to another.
From the point of view of emergency, well, you want me to respond to that, or?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, from the
Yeah.
point of view of emergency vehicles, once a tone is sounded, private roads are treated as driveways. And in fact, the chief owns the property basically, for all intents and purposes, until the emergency is declared over. So it's been raised numerous times as an issue, but it is not truly an issue. The law treats the private road no differently than it would be a driveway, and that's the end of it. The town has no obligation until such time as an emergency occurs. And when a request is made and the fire department responds at that point in time, it basically owns the property.
Now, we've discussed, and it has not got voted in, but blocking off the end of the road at Joe's Road with a gate, have a key for emergency, but unfortunately, people in our association voted it down, which that's fine.
Jody, I'm having difficulty understanding you. Could you speak a little bit more into the mic so that I can hear? Or?
How's that?
That's much better. Now, before you go any further, please tell me your last name, because I didn't.
Diorio.
What is it?
Diorio.
Diorio. Okay.
All right, you get the part about blocking off the end of the road? We talked about at our association meeting, blocking off the end of the road
Yeah.
with a gate,
Yeah.
so we won't get the through traffic. It got voted down by the association, but that's fine. But we want to stop the traffic, the through traffic. We want to stop lately there's been dump trucks coming through. And that's what ruined, Dennis, that's what ruined the road years ago. It demolished our road.
Are the dump trucks servicing local properties?
I believe
or going
they're
through? Okay, I think that's an issue, but
You've just spent a lot of money on that road.
You spent, in the last few years, about $80,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've done a good job
Yeah.
down there, and I totally understand
Yeah,
how it gets beaten up.
right. So, but it's a never-ending battle, just like everyone else. So, we're just hoping, even if the town can plow the roads for us, that's going to save us a ton of money.
That, there are different laws, there are different ways to do things. In some towns in Shapley, if 3 out of 4 people on the street signed a public easement, the town could go in and work on the road. They based this on the statutory laws that were put in by the state you're probably familiar with, Title 23, 3101. If 4 people have property on a road and 3 of them get together, they can form a committee. They then have notifications and whatever, but Shapley and their attorney based that on the fact that if 3/4 of the people sign an easement, we're in a position to go to the town and see if you can be accepted. I think I'd like to see a lot more of these roads picked up and have us have consistent quality care. That we know we're getting good gravel, we know who's doing the work is well versed on the environmental concerns. And as for the plowing in the winter, that provides jobs for the local citizens here. So I would think they would be delighted to get involved, and we'll see what we can do. I don't know, I've heard no a lot too, but I'm sick of it.
Yep, okay,
Hopefully we can do something.
sure.
May I, one other thing you described but I missed was, how much are the dues on Lakeside?
$300,
$300 a year?
and if you have a garage, another lot with a building on it, it's another $100.
So if it's a undeveloped lot, it's 300. If it's a developed lot, it's
No, a
400.
developed lot is 300.
Okay.
A livable lot, a house with a septic.
Okay, yeah.
And if you have just another lot like across the street, like many of us do,
Okay, so,
if there's a building on it, it's $100. If it's just plain land, nothing.
okay,
Yeah.
developed. And, $100. And what is the percentage of participation in the association, do you believe, among the people? Who
It's at least 95%.
95%
Yeah.
participation. Okay. And if I understood correctly, what you said is that virtually, well, somewhere between 95 and 100% of the people pay their dues, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
Could you repeat what you said about, if there was an emergency, then the town takes over or something? Considers it a driveway? Could you clarify that?
Treats a private road the same way it does, that it treats a driveway, okay? Well, if you have a driveway, that's private land, and presumably anybody who goes onto that driveway is trespassing, okay? Fire department is exempt from those regulations once they request services,
Okay.
all right? And from the perspective of the law treats private roads the same way as it treats a driveway, because in fact, that's how those roads were created. And can I,
So if there was no association on a campus, let's say nobody could afford it or whatever,
right,
and some lady had a heart attack every night down at the end, far end of the road,
right.
would the town maintain it then? Would they plow it so they can get that emergency vehicle in there?
I think the town has to look at ways to do that.
The
I
town,
don't think we leave 80-year-old women on a road where they're not being plowed. I think there can be some compassion. Sure.
when the emergency occurs, the town will make every effort. In fact, this has happened. I was driving and got the ambulance stuck one night years ago up on Langley Shores. The town makes every effort, but they don't initiate an action until the emergency occurs. And then they begin, and they will respond with plows. The road commissioners will be called in at the request of the fire department, and everything will be done to do what needs to be done. But until that emergency occurs, all right, there is no action, and for all intents and purposes, from the point of view of the municipality, that's private property. Okay. Okay, does that help?
Well, that's one interpretation of
Well,
the law.
okay.
But we're not here to discuss this amongst
Right.
ourselves. We're here to hear what you have to say.
Right.
And what your problems are.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Ron Pucci, Loop Road Neighbor Works Association. I'm the road commissioner of Loop Road.
Loop Road.
I want to first of all thank you for having us present. I think this is the first time that we've had a meeting with the private road associations. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I just wanted to thank you for having us here. Loop Road has had an association for approximately 10 years. Dues are about $180 a month. It's about 98% everybody in. And over the 10 years, we have done a number of road improvements. We used to have a tarred road, but it was 60, 70 years old, and it had, you could fall in the pothole and we'd have to dig you out. So we've been every year grading the tar, and now we have a gravel road just about all done. But we do have problems with maintenance and, you know, with the rains and then drainage. So if we had help in maintenance, I guess, would be what I'd put up was excavation. If that could, you know, once a year, someone could come through and smooth it out a little, especially after the winter.
Grader.
Yeah, that would be, you know, I'm just talking for us. I'm not talking for, and also, we're on a lake, Loon Pond. The road goes around the lake. I know there are federal grants for road drainage and the like, and maybe even for the road through the federal government. And I'm wondering if the town of Acton has a way of accessing those grants. But I do believe they do have federal grants.
Federal grants have been available for water quality issues. I'm not sure what else, but that's something that this
Well-
committee, we want to look into.
Right.
If we can get federal money, of course we want it.
I think that there is federal money to be had for roads that are abutting lakes.
Yes, you're right.
And because that drainage drains into that area and the environment, it's probably under the environment issues, I don't know.
Most of your runoff comes from roads.
Exactly. And we have problems. We have a ramp, a public, it's not public anymore. It used to be public. Now it's our ramp. We own it. We have to maintain it. But it's only for the Loop Road people. We do let people that live on the lake that do not live on Loop Road utilize the ramp, because it's probably one of the only ramps on the lake, if not the only one. There are others, but I don't know how good they are. The upkeep of culverts, trying to keep them, you know, we could use help. I mean, even if the fire department could come down once in a while and blow out whatever in some of we only have 2 culverts. They're both on Milton Mills Road. And the DOT just did a great job of fixing that area
They did
this week.
good work, yeah.
Very good work. But in the past, we have gone to the fire department and asked if they could come down and do that, and they told us that they could not. But I don't, you know, actually, if you wanted to use it for a training thing, they could come down there and hook up water and show the younger guys how to run a pump. I mean, it's not that, you know, it could be used for a lot of different things, to hold a line, how to do that, and they could still be training and helping the public that they serve. So I think that, you know, if that could happen, that would be a good idea. It could be moved forward at some time. Also, you talked about public safety. On a private road, when we call the sheriff, he tells us that he can't help us out on certain circumstances because it's a private road.
I understand that.
Well, my point is, if someone commits a crime, it doesn't matter if it's on a private road, it's a crime. And something should be done about it. And the answer to the person that lives on the private road is not, we can't do anything about it because it's a private road. We can't do anything. Now, we had a kid the other day that lives on Loop Road, drove his car down into the lake and started spinning on the shoreline. And the sheriff came and he did nothing, and this is the third time he did nothing. Now, I don't know about any other town, but I'm sure that he was breaking the law. Driving a car in the lake and driving it up and down the shoreline and up his hill. But he was not arrested, and this was the third time that he's been called on. So I don't know. It's a true story. I'm not making this up.
No.
And it's not, I mean, if you ask the sheriff, he'll tell you exactly what address this is, because they've been there at least 100 times.
Well, we've got your contact information.
Yes.
I will get back in touch
Okay.
with you. I heard from someone else that apparently they were reluctant to fill out an accident report on a private road.
Right.
And so I didn't understand that either, but we'll contact the sheriff and find out what's going on.
I really,
Do you know anything about that, Tom?
No, I would question that, an accident report. I would think if there was an accident in Shaw's parking lot or Shop and Spend's parking lot, that they'd probably fill out an accident report, but I don't know the answer.
Okay.
that this is not, there's reports on this specific people we're talking about, but more than once it's been said that it's a private road and we can't do anything about the law or whatever, how he put it. But if the law is broken, I'm sure he can enforce it. I'm sure if somebody broke into your house and they went down there, even though if it's on a private road, the house is broken into.
Right.
So we deserve the same protection, I hope, that anybody else does as far as the law is concerned. But basically, I think that these all relate to private roads, and I think that maintenance would be a big help. We don't mind. I mean, I've been here 40 years living at that camp, and we used to have the roads plowed, and everything was nippy nice. And then all of a sudden, our road's not up to snuff, and we had to get our own association, which we did, and they did. And we do our own work, but we still pay taxes.
Right.
And,
You're paying how much in insurance a year?
pardon
How
me,
much in insurance are you having to pay on your road a year?
Chris, could you answer that? $1,600.
So that comes right off your road maintenance because you've got to do your own
Oh, yeah, I
insurance,
mean,
where you could have a better culvert or two or three. I totally understand that.
and I'm speaking as a representative of the road association, but also I'm sure that the people that are sitting here have all the same things to say.
May I? I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I'm
Ron Pucci,
Ron.
Pucci. I'm Irish.
Yeah, I can tell. I'm Irish too.
But and also trees. Okay, go ahead.
One other. I think you said that your dues were $180 a month in
A
your
year.
statement. That's okay.
No, not a month. 180 a month? No, I don't think so.
I couldn't quite imagine.
My house would
$180 a
be,
month.
I wouldn't have a house now. I'd be living someplace else.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you for.
Try getting, I don't even know if we can get 181 after this.
Okay,
a year.
but it is 180 a month?
Yeah.
Or a year?
A
right?
year.
It's 180 a year, okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Another concern, and now that we have the meeting, I'm going to bring it, trees overhanging on our roads. Is there some of them are hanging dangerously over wires. And I'm wondering if the town knows the number of, like, the electric company would come out and take care of some trees that could be a danger. Especially, well, you know, in 98 or whatever year it was, the trees took down almost every power line that there was.
I've got a number for the person that does that, and I'll get in touch
Okay.
with you after and give it to you. Should they have an arborist?
Okay, because he could come down, I'm sure there's trees he's want to take,
And the DOT Local Road Center did have a class scheduled for this fall. They haven't put dates up, but it's for trees and weed control on these roads. And if that class becomes available, I'll notify anyone interested. I've found good information at all of them. They also do a gravel road class, and they'll come right down. They'll tell you what to do, how to get the best gravel.
right, that would be,
And they also will tell you how to price it and what to look for. So we're trying to get educational help here too.
right,
and
well, we need it.
we do.
Well, I want to thank you for giving us the time to speak, and hopefully we can have another meeting to see how we progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Sure.
Just something he had mentioned about the sheriff. What about the speed on these roads? Trying to control the speed on these private roads. Do you have any suggestions? If we can't get the sheriff, what do we do?
I don't know. We have the same problem. We've tried signage. We've had suggestions for speed bumps, but that's not recommended because of course, your plowing issues and also liability issues if somebody damages something. I don't have an answer there. You can post it. You can request.
There's a dead end, but the speed on that road is unbelievable. Those people coming down over the hill, somebody's gonna get killed. Coming off and got off and do away. It's unbelievable.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Claire Russo. I'm representing Anderson Cove Road and Chipmunk Run. We have 40 properties, 1.25 miles of road. Our dues are $300 a year. The lion's share of the money goes for plowing, so that's the area that we would like help with the most.
Yeah.
We do have wonderful neighborhood volunteers who come out and we get a load of gravel delivered, and the neighbors come out and make a party out of it and fill in the potholes and rake the stuff from the edges and cut branches and try to keep the road in pretty good shape.
That's great.
That's about it.
Yeah, many of them can't get volunteers, so
The
you're
worst,
lucky.
the worst part is trying to get some of the people to pay, especially one developer who's logged the area, has multiple properties, and has heavy equipment on the road, and he refuses to chip in.
Claire, you have an association, I assume?
Yes, we do.
You do know that you can recover through the law some of those costs?
Through leaning,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, there are ways provided in law.
is there a way the town could help us, teach us how to go about doing this?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. But I'm
That's
just
one-
telling.
Yeah,
but
are
Yeah.
you a
what you're telling
statutory
me
road
is,
association?
Yeah, we do. We file a report each year.
Okay, then you do have the ability to lien, but that doesn't necessarily really help you,
No.
because until the
they
property
sell.
changes hands, you can't collect. Although you can charge interest and your collection fees.
if he's a developer, he's gonna need a clean title.
Right,
Yeah,
right. He has
yes.
he has three driveways cut in now with big for sale signs. So that's
I would call the real estate agent. Sorry, I'm not nice.
Okay.
but-
Claire, how much
that's a
do
good
you
idea.
dues a year?
300 a year. But most of it goes for plowing, as I said. And we have 3 year-round residents who live on the road. All the rest are seasonal.
What's
Okay.
your part, you, except for this developer, you have close to 100% participation?
No, we have 5 regular people who won't pay either.
5 regular people
Right,
who
yeah.
don't pay.
Right.
Okay. So that, how many lots are on that road? There's an
40.
awful lot.
40.
40. So you're paying roughly then about 90% participation.
I guess.
Yeah.
The people who won't pay say they don't come in the winter so they don't have to pay. But that's ridiculous because we buy gravel and
Right.
whatever else.
And their insurance
Right.
company probably won't cover their property if the road isn't plowed.
Right.
Excuse me, but I've got a comment. You gotta put liens on these places.
Right.
Statutory Road Association, very successful, and we don't play games. We put liens on property, we cover our costs. That's what we do. It's not a work part of our board, very successful. If you need help with that process, I can talk to you.
Oh, good.
I've been involved in this from day one.
Thank you.
Ray Cressy, Statutory Road Association. Ray Cressy. Yeah, you've got to contact me.
What's his name?
Ray Cressy. We'd love to have you come up here, Ray.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Come on up.
We'd love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we just get together and have a workshop.
Well, I'm hoping we'll get a group together that can meet afterwards,
Well, my name is,
firm up some stuff and give this committee some help.
Yeah.
And I know you've been involved and you were on planning board.
been around. My name is Raymond Cressy.
Cressy.
Dennis Cressy, Cressey.
Oh, okay.
And I've been in this thing since the beginning of time, since this whole thing started, and before that. Our Tattle Street Road Association is very successful, and I'm so thankful for a board of leaders that help out, because without them, I'm screwed. But I was a president in the beginning, and then we lost our road commissioner, so I took the road commissioner's job, and we'd had another change of hands, but over the time, since 2006, we've had a fairly consistent board. We represent, our Tattle Street Road Association started off to try to maintain what it was the town maintained back in its day, which was .62 miles of the old Tattle Street, and around the corner to 34th is an intersection, but we represent 80 properties. 32nd, we have Tattle Street, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and 35th Street. We have a tiered, we in the very early days, the laws were limiting us what we could do as a statutory. We elected to go statutory back in the day when there was a lot of talk, because incorporating left us with limitations that you cannot place liens on an incorporated road association. Statutory, we're under great protection and gives us the ability to do that. We run about a $15,000 budget. In the beginning, the mill rate method had people very irate. That was our biggest problem. And then a year or two after, about 2 years after that, the state allowed for a fair method as long as it was voted in, and we went to what's called a tiered method. So if you use the first, as it worked out, the first 10% of that road, we just went up this year for the first time. It's $130 a year. The second half, the second portion of that road, meaning doesn't matter what side your driveway's on. If you're on the lake side, you pay the same as the guy on the back lot, which is that one there now has gone up to what, $190 a year now. It used to be $100, $150, and $175, but we had to come up in cost because of an issue with calcium and just cost of living. Down in where I'm at the far end, we pay $220 a year for developed lots. Unbuildable lots, we put a dollar value on there just to have $1 to say we recognize that. Buildable lots that are not built yet, or may have a garage on them, we charge 50% of whatever that assessed value is. So if you have a back lot with a garage on it, it's 50% of what your assessed value is. Liens, we don't typically mess around with them. We have a great attorney who handles this for us, and we pursue them. Out of 80 properties, we have what? This year we've got maybe 5 people. We just had a settlement of a lien right next door to my house and brought in about $1,400 that's been sitting since 2012. It works, and it's all the interest accrued plus all the lawyer fees, the whole 9 yards. So in the end, the association recovers that cost. No bank's going to touch that property without that being taken care of. I guess if I was to stand here, and when we first did this, myself and another fella, we went to Waterboro to a town hall meeting over there for private roads, which included Newfield, Lyman, Waterboro, Shapley, and some others, because we would successfully put this thing together, and we spoke with these people to say, you know, we're all stuck in this mess.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was a good, informative meeting. I'm up here tonight for one reason, because I know where we stand with this whole thing. This used to be a town road. It was abandoned in 1917 with no public rights, which is not done today. I've got a great deal of time studying the roads, laws, and everything, so I know what we can and can't do within the bounds of Tattle Street. It's a two-rod road. Last year, I think it was late in the year, we contacted the town. We were looking for some funding for calcium application to alleviate the dust problem on Lower Mousom, the Back Cove. It's brutal down there, and 3/4 of the people who live on that road, 70% of the properties are in beyond the culvert that we're talking about. I was encouraged. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. We're more than welcome. Talking with a selectman, we're more than welcome to entertain that. And yes, we could do something, but you're going to have to form a 501c3. I went, okay, so there can be a nonprofit. We started the process. In the meantime, I had to make a selectmen's meeting, so I wrote up a letter. I didn't bring it tonight, but it's in file because it was at Jen Rue, who I will commend, is very helpful to us as a board. She had that letter, and I stood up here with the selectman, and the fellow who encouraged all of this evidently didn't talk to the others, because when I spoke of what I'm talking about, the first thing he said is, we start doing that, we're going to have to do it for everybody. Ain't happening. In fact, you need to charge more for your association fees. I was embarrassed. It was unprofessional. And when I walked away from here, that's what had happened there. And I just had to walk away. I feel as though that's a water quality issue. And the $1,200 that we spent to have that done, we had to raise our fees to apply that this year. We did it last year as an experiment, and it worked very well in spite of a drought. So that's where I was kind of going is, you know, don't encourage us as a group to go out of our way and the expense and all of the work to do a 501c3 and then all of a sudden embarrass me because we're not going to pay that out. Nah, not going to happen. We do it to you, we got to do it for everybody. We should. It's a moral obligation to the people who pay the bills in this town.
Well, the dust is a water quality issue, definitely. Are they applying it dry?
Yes.
Because I've heard
Flakes.
somebody here, and I'd love to, if anybody knows who it is, somebody has equipment to put it on as a brine solution, which means a lot less product on your road. You don't have to wait for it to get wet, and it should last you longer and do a better job. I will check, but if anyone here knows, I've only heard, and unfortunately didn't get the name.
You can pretty much use that brine solution in any water truck with a spreader bar. You don't have to have any expensive equipment. It could be a whole truck, tank mounted to a trailer. You mix it, it stays in there so long. If you want to agitate, you agitate it, and then you just open the water bar up and go down the road. So it's not, there's other products out there now other than calcium.
Yep.
That lasts all season, that's made out of polymers, and it's environmental friendly, and it just keeps repeating itself.
We explored that. When you start looking at the costs, and I've got some board members here who put a great deal of time into this, I can tell you the flaked calcium for us was the only thing we can afford. It was $1,200 to treat what we did. Extremely successful, and it virtually eliminated maintenance on that section of road that we treated. But for the folks who live on either side of this piece of the road, they finally for once could open their windows up, and we didn't see the back cove covered in brown dust. And that's the one thing that I came here asking for, because I know what pickle we're in as far as being down a private way.
Yeah.
Been around this since '05, as far as being involved in this whole thing. I knew it was coming in '04. We typically have like 3 owners out of 80 properties. They own some multiples, but for the most part, we have about 3 owners who don't like to pay their bills, and we just place liens on them.
Out of how many? 3 out of how many?
Out of 80 properties, but I can't remember, I don't know how many owners we have. There must be in around 70-ish owners. But like myself, I have I have a separate lot. 93?
So you're roughly 97%. You're 95. You're in the 95 to 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and every road association has its challenges. You know, we have one road that they can go out a different way. They don't want to pay, they don't pay. So, I don't want to go into that whole thing because each road has its own weirdities. But I guess for me, the road association's been very successful. It's a tremendous amount of work for the people that are involved. Tremendous amount of time and effort to make this successful. And if you don't follow the law, you can stand liable.
Right.
We have insurance for the DNO. We showed the road. The state says that they protect us. We still keep our insurance. Same thing, $1,700 a year, whatever. So we're very successful.
You are.
I just want to make a comment on the calcium. Back in the springtime, we had a meeting with York County Soils Committee over down there, Shapley and Acton,
Yeah.
and she was walking the road, and there was a four-wheel Jeep burrito on down calcium, like 200 four wheels buzzing down. She couldn't even breathe. She said, "Wow, this is a major problem." That only got once a year, but the car traffic over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years is probably doubled.
Mm-hmm.
People that live up there year round now, year round. So she contacted the DEP, I can't remember her name, the woman. And basically it came down to us asking them about calcium chloride. Neither one of them could give us give me a definitive answer of whether or not that was a recommended application to use. Because they didn't want to say whether it was good or bad.
Sure.
In the Campo reports, it says it is an accepted method of keeping the dust. So like I said, I contacted DEP and they wouldn't give me a yes or no whether or not to use it. Well, yeah, if you want to use it, go ahead. It's the least costly method of keeping the dust. You can get these products in the Midwest because the Midwest has a lot of gravel roads.
Uh-huh.
There's some names of different chemicals they use, organic stuff, juice or something. Pretty expensive though, just to transport the stuff. So there's no regulations on what goes in the water. We're right on the water.
None of our calcium goes into the water even after a heavy rain. We have runoff with stone-lined ditches. Everything is soil retent. It's all retentive because we couldn't put it down otherwise. And the other thing is,
We put this down. Now we have one fella saying that he's going to sue the association because it's giving him skin cancer or lung cancer.
Oh, jeez.
It's tearing a phone off his motorcycle or something. So you can't run with this stuff.
oh, it's even better.
It's even better.
We've had a drought. Last year was extreme, and we still had an 85 to 90% reduction in dust.
But once a year you have to.
Yeah,
This, yeah.
and we incorporate it into our budget now.
And they say that over the years, it actually gets better. With a less amount of application.
This year's been unbelievable. Not only, we as a road association could not focus on lake water quality. That's not what we're in the business for. And therefore, when we present this in our budget, it was to reduce road maintenance, and you wouldn't believe the reduction in road maintenance. We've got a new contractor in there, came in and graded the road. The one that we had right from the beginning is gone. This new guy came in, he put his grader in there. He graded it once to get a good initial and bring soils and clean the sides of the roads. Then he came back, and once he got the green light, he graded again. We paid a little extra for compaction, because that's what he was trained to do, and then he put that calcium down. It's 1,000 feet of calcium from the pavement at the Shapley Town line to this big culvert, and I think he went just beyond that. Eliminated the dust, almost 98%. It's incredible. So the lake. Oh, I don't know how many bags. He used bags.
Calculated out, it should have been about 1.25 tons on that amount, that's 1,000.
I didn't get involved.
If you go on the, Camp Road,
He followed the application rate,
application,
whatever it was. I don't know.
roughly $1,200 or 1,000.
Yes. Worth every dime. The maintenance is eliminated, almost. Except, you know, now it's starting to show a little signs, but we've had a major logging operation in there, we've had houses moved in, we've had another house being built, so there's large trucks coming in, found in the road. I mean, it's just, you get the right contractor in there, he'll save you money. So that's,
Thank you, and I hope you'll stay in touch and share whomever is doing the good work with us all.
Hi, I'm Lois Mishu. I'm actually here to represent the Hebo Hibo, the entrance part of it. It's a closed road. We have a lot of issues with the Maple Grove Cemetery Association. And we have the same issues you guys do, traveling through it, people throwing up rocks and doing stuff like that. The problem we've got now is an individual back there. We can't stop him from being back there because he's already pre-built. The problem is that he didn't have the appropriate access back there. It was only supposed to be foot. He's actually taken his vehicle and going up and down it. Now, that being said, we have ATVs, we have SUVs, they have everything they want going up and down that. The problem we've got, being members of the association, is that any of the cemetery rocks or headstones that are along that base have all been chipped because of the rocks being thrown up and spit out. We're running into issues, and it's a closed road. It's been closed since the mid-'80s, since they got done logging out back there. The gentleman that's living back there, his electricity comes off in Dennis Lane. I don't understand how all this took place. It took place underneath something or not. They never came to us as a group anyway. We have several roads in town that are actually closed off. We have Town Farm Road. It's closed off. They had the same issues, but not to that extent. You have SUVs, four-wheelers, and the whole 9 yards, but because they don't have their homes so close to the closers, they don't have all that. They have things flying at them, but not as graphic as that we do. And I don't know how. I don't know as an association how much more we can actually take. I mean, why should we, as a nonprofit organization, have to spend money to protect ourselves when they shouldn't be there to start with? I mean, I don't know how you guys are adapting to closed roads, period. I mean, this one's technically been closed. People come up to me and say, well, we didn't know it was closed. And it's like, yes, it is. I've actually had they've actually, at one time, the Lebanon side was actually fenced off. They caught them pulling the fence, and they arrested the person pulling the fence in the whole 9 yards. There was a big bust over that side about 3 or 4 years ago. The foresters came out and asked us what we could do. And I said, because the gentleman lives back there, we can't, we're stuck. We were actually thinking about moving, because when they changed it to we own the middle of the road, to put a barricade out there through. But what everybody's afraid of, the minute we do that, somebody is going to pull it out. The gentleman that lives across next to us, that actually we share the roadway with, he's actually got no trespassing signs out there. He was told, and I was also told, take pictures, because they're going to disappear. So I can sympathize with all these guys as far as things running up and down your yard, trying to stop it, ruining stuff. When you're talking cemetery stones, we're not talking just little bits and pieces, we're talking chunks. I've actually had one family that said if this continues, they're actually going to take us to court because it's up to us to protect the people and their things in there. I don't know. We're stuck because every time we try to stop them, we're batted even more under the road, if you want to call it that.
They seem to root a lot of motorcycle groups and
Oh yeah,
four-wheelers.
matter of fact, that group that went through Tattle Street actually comes out down through us. And we
Yeah.
watched about 100 of them go in and out through. How am I supposed to stop them? I mean, they're telling us to stop them. We call the cops, or the police officers, or the sheriff's departments, and they say the same thing to them. It's a private individual. We didn't know it was a private road, and they tell us the same thing. The only thing is that where they damaged the stones we have to report it, so if we have issues like this, we have it on file. I mean, it's ridiculous. We never had this such much of a problem as we do now. We never had this issue. I've lived in Acton all my life. And I've been on different boards, and I've done different things. I've helped out where I can, and I've butted heads with even these people on this board because we don't agree on everything. But we still come down to the main factor. We live here. This is what we were brought up to do. And I don't understand how these roads are closed. We can't drill it through their heads that these roads are closed, and they're making damages. What can we do? I mean, and my hands are tied, or our hands as an association is tied. We tell everybody it's closed, but it like hits here, doesn't rattle in the front, and keeps going. I don't know, and we can't afford this to continue. I mean, it's getting costly for us.
Well, I'd like to come down and take a look at it. I don't know what we can do.
Well, that's
but we
it.
can look into the laws farther and see. That's
Because I don't know what the town's rules are as far as having when the roads are closed. I know it goes to each side, gets a half,
yep.
and after that,
Actually, if I can, there have been a number of changes in the laws over the years since the town originally started abandoning roads. So the notion of dividing it in half applies for some of those years. Then there are other laws, so it would be very relevant, first of all, to know who owns the property that the cemetery is actually on.
Cemetery Association owns it.
The Cemetery Association, which cemetery association?
Maple Grove Cemetery Association.
Maple Grove owns it, then Maple Grove can post it legally.
We've been encouraged to do that, but they've also encouraged us to take pictures because the minute we post it, it's gone. They're gone. It's highway. It's gone.
Take
It doesn't
pictures.
stay. It's like anybody else who posts is like they're not going through on their roads. The minute you get wind of something posted, it's gone. It's history. They said the only thing they can get them for is stealing the sign. I mean, we've tried everything. We've tried working with everybody. We've tried encouraging them. Even the officers. I had an issue where I had to call an officer in. He actually caught the four-wheelers and asked them not to go out there. They didn't even realize it was a closed road until we got to talking. I talked to DOT. Matter of fact, if you look, our stretch of road is not done because it's a double whammy there because you have to stay 25 feet away from the association or cemetery roads and how it works. I offered to compromise, and he said, nope, if you're not having an issue, I'm going to leave it alone. I said, thank you, and he kept on the truck, and I was grateful for that. They were really kind about it. But he also asked about the Hebo-Hibo. On their records, it doesn't even show that it's closed. It shows that it's an open territory. When I came here and talked to Mr. Paul, he even showed me right on the town map how it got divided between this side owns this and this side owns that. You can't landlock somebody out back. In other words, we have people out back of us. By law, you can't landlock them. They have the right to go in there. But supposedly, I've been told by a lawyer as well as others, that whoever owns the front decides how you access. In other words, whether it's by foot, by vehicle, by SUV, however it is, as long as you don't landlock them.
As long as they can access it.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. They can't landlock you. I just, it's frustrating because these people spend money on their headstones to just have them ruined. And no matter what we're going to attempt to do, I know that we're going to have a battle of the wits. And I didn't know if that was something that you guys can help or anybody else out there that could help and give ideas. We're just at the point of where we're a nonprofit. You know, money's tight. And it is what it is. And I'm still trying to figure out how the gentleman out back got there, to be honest, and be able to transport back and forth. He actually, and I've asked him several times, he takes his snow when he plows the whole route and piles it in front of our gates. I've asked him and asked him and asked him and asked him, please don't do that, because if we have an emergency, we need to be able to access that. And the only other way I can get in is, I've actually done it before, is to call somebody, a member association, and say, can you come down here and undo this? I mean, it's just really frustrating, and that's why I said I can feel these guys' frustration on how this is going down. And it just seems to be out to play. It's like everybody's just out to play. They don't care about damages. They don't care about what's going on. They just want to go out and have fun. Oh, heck, I own 2 SUVs. and a couple of other things, but I'm at least encouraged to how somebody else's land is, and I make sure that I have permission to go on their property. The gentleman that abuts me owns 220 acres, and we've always asked him, is there a possibility of us, going out back there? And he's always said yes, as long as you clean up after yourself. And that's another issue. They go back there, they've left mattresses behind, they left parts of cars, they've actually gone out back and had it pulled all out. And they leave it then because people go back there and clean, they leave it on the side of the road. Then usually David or somebody or is on the town will go by and pick it up and bring it to the dump. But that's wrong too. I mean, it's totally not right that somebody has to actually go back there and actually clean.
No, I've seen that your road has been a dump site.
Yeah.
We saw appliances when we went up there.
Exactly. And the 4-Hers about 15 or 20 years ago actually took 2 trucks up there with all the 4-H members we had. We bought 4 loads of trash, just trash, up to the transfer station. Because my husband was like, oh my God, that's my truck. I said, yeah, it was overloaded. We just as loaded as high as we could go to make sure it was legally going down the road. So that's why I said I can sympathize. If somebody can help, great. I'm hoping this will come to an end.
Well, I want to come see it, and I don't know what, if anything, we can do, but I'd like to see it so I understand it better. And
yeah, because that's part of the problem is even if you go down on your own, you'd be able to see it, especially when you first pull in. If you go into the lower part of the gates, you'll actually see on the back side where some of the stones have been damaged and shipped by SUVs and just spitting up rocks.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Irene Snyder. And I live,
Yeah, can somebody help her? Yeah.
is that better? No? Okay.
Better.
I live at 261 Flat Ground Road.
How long have you lived there?
Probably about 30 years.
30 years. Are you there year-round?
Pardon?
Are you there year-round now, or?
No, and my husband had passed away in 2008, but I do come up during the summers. I'm still hanging on to the place because I'm getting older, I suspect. And I loved it. We both did when he found the place because he worked around different areas and he happened to be working in New England. And he called me. I was teaching school in Pennsylvania. He said, I know where we're going to retire. So he found the fishing camp. And of course, the location is wonderful, across from the New Hampshire mountains and the backwaters of the river. And it's a side community, but if you could call it a road, we have one of the worst. Nothing is ever done to it by the town, no matter how many times we've pleaded. And roughly there are probably 12 to 13 families living there now. So there is enough traffic to travel over our, right now it's sand and gravel. But since it hasn't rained very much, presently, we don't have the big problem that we usually have. Now, I could not stay up here in the winter because I couldn't get to my place or get out of it once I got in. Because nothing is done to the road, no matter how many times we've begged for it. And if we didn't have a good citizen who takes care of it at times when it gets so bad you can't make it, Dennis Long manages to keep it raked enough, and of course it's been great this year because it hasn't rained. But when the rain starts, we'll be stuck.
Sure.
Besides that, there has been work going on in the woods below the camps, between where we live and the river. Big heavy trucks going through the rest of Flat Ground Road goes all the way to the river, into the woods. So when they come through, they make deep holes in the road and do nothing about it. Even though you ask them, is this going to be, and it wasn't just one company, several companies.
where they go down to get the wood and so forth.
They just logged off 60 acres on your road, and that all went over.
And it's dry, so we haven't noticed too much. We've heard the noise and seen the trucks. But soon as it rains, you won't be able to travel on that road. And I couldn't get in most of the winter. So I had to stay in Connecticut at my daughter's.
Now, the town used to maintain flat ground, correct?
It's supposed to be a town road.
Yeah, I believe it still is a town road.
Then what is the major problem?
I think that more attention needs to be paid to these roads and a second look. Some of the laws have changed. Some of the things we've done in the past have not been as helpful as they could be. I'd like to see that we could get a committee going out of this group to help this committee, and let's look at what we can do. We're collectively, we're worth more. We can pool resources where if we can't get town funding, we could pool resources. We're looking for ways, and I'd love to see we can't have a subcommittee, I don't believe, but a committee that would meet and look into some stuff for us.
Now, since it's been dry, you didn't hear many complaints. Because after Klein Dennis had raked the road and leveled it out, filled up holes, it's good traveling. But I dread the first time the rain season comes, because I'll be stuck forever.
Oh, I know. I was down there first thing in the spring to see it.
See, in the spring it wasn't bad.
Well, early spring it was
Right.
real sporty.
I couldn't live up here during the winter, because now I'm a widow, and almost 10 years now. And it was difficult at that time because my husband suffered a severe stroke. He was a World War II veteran. And I had to take him in and out at different times. And sometimes it was impossible. And one of the male nurses came to see him because they visited frequently. And he couldn't get in because the road had not been plowed. And this is part of the Hopper Road, which is macadam.
Yep.
And when you go off the Hopper Road, if it hasn't been plowed, there's nowhere you can go. You're stuck in the snow, even with a truck. He went to the town hall, he said, and told him he had to see a sick client and he couldn't get through. They said, we don't plow the roads for that. So they turned him down flat because he had called me to talk to me. He said, I tried. So consequently, he didn't have attention, and 5 weeks later, he was dead because he did need that attention at the time. And so I'm not very happy when I know when I get in there, if we have a hard rain, I'll either have to be pulled out or something done because you sink way down in. It's just mud.
Yeah, it is.
Just
It
mud.
is.
Of course, you were down when it wasn't rainy, right?
I was down there early spring, then I've been back since you've done work on the road. It's a lot better now.
Yeah, but
Boy,
because
you
it's been
get a
dry.
tremendous amount of traffic over it with that logging.
That's it, and they don't do anything. Even though you've seen a superintendent or one of the other companies that had started that, they did it 2 o'clock in the morning when they thought you weren't aware that they were around. Well, you can't miss the noise when you're cutting trees that are below you. And so that didn't help. And, of course, they dodged the issue of damaging the road. And consequently, when anybody does it, we're lucky because it has rain, but we do need rain anyway, so that's going to happen someday. So if you have a call that says, help, help, I'm stuck, I can't get out, you'll know it's me, because I'm one of the last houses along the flat ground road. And the people that live there can't afford to have that road repaired all the way down to the river, because most of us live along flat ground road close to the Hopper.
The first mile and a half is pretty much all your population.
That's
and
right.
Everybody there that's
Yeah.
in the winter.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
So,
I only stay because I can't get out. If I do go there, I'll be stuck. So then I leave for Connecticut where I have a daughter that lives and spend the winter that. And of course, when my husband was living, I did stay 2 winters because he was disabled and couldn't walk and had to be transported. And that times when he had to have someone, they did try to do something. But when the nurse tried to get in that time, never got to see him. And so in the records, the nurses were in charge of that operation, coming to the home to visit those who were disabled, especially since he was a veteran. And they said, we can't get in. And if we can't get in, you can't have our services. So they wrote me a letter, said, we're sorry, but we have to suspend the services for your husband. So then nobody could get in.
Thank you,
That's
Irene.
right. Yes, thank you very much.
I don't know if that helps or not, but
No, I think all of it helps. I think mostly people that don't live on these roads have no understanding of the problems and the work that has to be done by private individuals that are already paying taxes. So you have my sympathy.
that's it. Well, when I went to the town meeting
Call the ambulance.
to present it, because all the work had been done by committees, and the moderator had read and said, if you agree, you just sit there. If you disagree, you stand. So I was waiting, I don't know what number it was a pretty high number. Here I see, discussion of using the funds that were left from repair of roads because we did not need it. And the suggestion was that we put it in the general funds. And so I stood up, and the moderator didn't see me at first. I said, Mr. Moderator, I'm standing, because I'm objecting to that statement. He said, well, that doesn't apply to you. I said, most certainly does, because we're speaking about the road that needed repaired, and you had money left over, so the second suggestion was dump it in general funds. So whether they did it or not, I'm assuming they did. So
I'm assuming they did too.
so I hope something can be done.
I hope so too. And-
How much does it take to plow? To keep the road.
Well, that's something I think we have to look into. The plowing is something, local people do the work, the money stays in town. There should be ways that we could expand plowing roads if we do nothing else. I would like to see that. I know it would take a big financial burden off, and then the concentration could be on your water quality issues and taking care of the actual road. I don't know how this will fly, but I sure will be happy to present it.
Thank you.
And I would think people that work in town and need winter work would be delighted.
Right.
Well, what puzzled me before was they said, we don't have the funds. And then when I went to this town meeting and was listening to the articles that were being read that had been decided whether we stand up, we don't agree with it. If we sit down, then it passes. And so, I said, there's one about the road. So, and of course, that wasn't received with much grace, but I felt I had to speak up, which is what I have to do now.
Well,
And
I'm
since
glad
I'm
you
getting
did.
older, I have to speak up while I'm still living.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question. Why wouldn't the town make these lawyers put up a bond in order to get that?
Can I address that? Because that's exactly where I was about to go.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I've heard several times tonight references to damages being done by both logging and gravel hauling over some of the private roads. And there is a process for that in town. That can only be done with the issuance of a conditional use permit, which is granted by the planning board. And a legitimate condition, is that anybody who is operating under one of these permits be made to pay for damage that they do to roads. We do this in the town when we actually go through the process. If we grant a permit to log, we have a mechanism, or a condition is that they reimburse for any damage they do to town roads. There's no reason why you folks cannot be party to that process of the issuance of a permit, but you need to represent yourself before the planning board as that conditional use permit is in the process of being heard. Now, those of you who are neighbors or very close to gravel pits or logging operations should be receiving in the mail notice of the application for a permit. I'm not sure what the regulations are. You'd have to talk with the planning board or the code enforcement officer about that. But there is a process, there is a mechanism built into the law for you to recover when damage is done by one of these operations. And that's all I want to say about it, because I don't know the ins and outs of it. The code enforcement officer and the planning board, they're the people to talk with about this.
I will say this about logging operations, talking to code enforcement, most times, code enforcement doesn't know there's any logging being done until he gets the information from the state. And quite often, like down there on the flat ground road, and they just did that 50, 60 acres, they're in and out of there in 2 weeks, and the town didn't have the paperwork from the state saying that was going to be logged, and it was all done and gone.
You're saying the waters have to go through the state versus the town?
They have to get a permit from the state. Right.
No.
And are the abutters, all the abutters supposed to be noticed? Notified?
Not for logging.
Not for logging?
There were,
So how would you know it's a logging operation going to be done to go to the planning board?
Well, I think the forestry and conservation ought to get involved here.
But I know the different logging operations that have gone on down the flat ground over the years has not gone in front of the planning board. And I'm not saying none of them do.
The town has nothing to say about logging, basically. If the state will give them a permit, they can go in and log and...
The code enforcement said last year, I believe it was at a selectmen's meeting, excuse me, that he cannot enforce any violations on logging operations. It wouldn't hold up in court because he's not a certified forester. That's what he said a year ago. Whether that is or it's not, I don't know.
I
About the road agent.
Doesn't the town have perfect? They do, don't they?
Yes, they do.
One of those trucks, 80,000-pound trucks, is the equivalent of more than 1,000 cars. That's the beating up we're taking when you see these big gravel trucks go down your roads and these big logging trucks. And many of these companies are from out of town. These aren't local pits. These aren't local groups. And we're being left with the damage and scalped land. And on our road, Abbott Road, we had a cut up above us on Acton Ridge that wiped out 2 sections of our road from the runoff after they were done. I'd like to see some environmental people get in with them and at least have them have to provide erosion control when they're up above us. We look across the lake now and I can see a huge spot that's been cut right down as close to as they could to the lake. That's all running down. And just another thing, I'm tightening up. Times have changed. We have more people. We have to be more careful. And if we don't protect the water quality, we don't protect our property values. Roads that are maintained by a town have higher values than those that are privately maintained. It's easier to get financing, and I think probably some of these roads could be taken over, and I'd like to look in that direction if you're interested. Some roads don't want the town on them. They want to do it their way, and that is their prerogative. But if there's a way we can help, I'd like to try it, and I'd like all the help I can get from this group, and with your names, we'll be contacting you.
just a number of years ago, the legislature, under pressure from professional loggers, passed a law that authorized permitting through the state without knowledge of the town. And the rationale behind this was it took too long. I was under the impression that that law had been changed. I may be in error speaking and saying that a permit in every case is required from the town. I believe the town is involved to some extent, but I need further clarification on that. Gravel, absolutely, but I'm gonna have to, we're gonna have to check on the logging scenario. And maybe we just need to pressure the legislature and say, hey, you're superseding local authority here, and that doesn't fly.
We had a logging operation back a few years back, some years ago now. The fellow that came in there, he came in the office, trying to access some large acreage by a little tiny tag connection from the front lot and the back 400 acres where it was. Anyways, he couldn't do that, but he got in there. But when he left, he not only stove up the road, but he had stove up a neighboring yard where the trucks were just so big that they turned and they mashed the road and they mashed right down in this guy's yard. So this guy Dave comes up and he's angry. He wants to know what's going on. You know, he doesn't live up here. Well, in the end, I was able to squeeze $300 out of Mr. Libby. And, you know, it covered the riprap, and we had the guy come in, a contractor. The road wasn't destroyed, but the bottom line was he did property damage, and he made good on it. Maybe not 100% in terms of payoff, but I felt that it was a good faith payment to us to at least fix this guy Dave's yard, you know, and to this day that riprap's there. And so, you know, I think sometimes pressure on the loggers and the forester.
Yep.
The forester was embarrassed that yard was left like it was. So, you know, I just say that sometimes pressure will work, not always.
Maybe you can answer a question for me. How come the town roads, when an employee lives on it, is taken care of? And then you get where they're not living, it becomes private.
Wow, I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know. I think over the years, special considerations were made to special people. And in a small town years ago, that worked. Now we're in a different situation. We have more laws. Everything costs more. We need to treat everybody equally. Show me the road. I'll go down it with you. And
Now, who makes up the laws? I live on Loop Road. I live on the water. Just
Yep.
because I'm living on the water, my lot's only 40 by 90. I gotta pay 100 by 100? Who makes that?
I don't know. I don't know, probably because you're considered a house lot. I don't know how they would come up with that. Do you know, Tom?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
That's the assessor, wouldn't it?
It's got to be the assessment. I don't know how that works.
I'd like to find him myself.
Pay more.
Oh, you're paying more on the water everywhere.
Even though your lot's small, but you're being taxed for a bigger lot.
I guess I can answer, I think, what I understand the question to be.
Okay.
If he'd like.
100 by 100.
Are you saying that your lot is being assessed at 100 by 100 square feet? Well, then you need to file for an abatement. If it is incorrectly done, that's a legal document. You come up, you see the selectman, or you can see Jennifer. If your tax is being based on 100 by 100, but you're only 40 by 90, then an abatement is in order, and that's an improper assessment, and you can collect backwards 3 years of excess taxes. Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Ken Wynn. I'm with the Tattle Street Road Association, and I'm trying to find out what's the tax lien here. I realize that these camp roads are all private. My property is private. Now, if my property was on a public road, I would be getting all the services. where my property is now on a private road, I don't get them from the town. So my question is, if the public roads are getting, why can't we see some sort of maybe a rebate or a reduction on taxes commensurate with what we pay if we're not receiving the services? Why can't we receive that from the town?
Somebody else asked me that, Joe, and they were under the impression that they were going to get 20% off of their taxes because the town didn't maintain the road. I have heard nothing about that. I think it's a wonderful idea, but I don't think we're going to get it.
Unfortunately, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Dennis, you want to do that, or you want me to?
Go ahead now.
Okay, all right. Your assessment is based on historical sales of lots in your neighborhood, okay? So, of presumably similar properties, all right?
Okay.
So, what happens is the town records sales throughout the town. They're on a set of books, and the assessors look at those, and from those sales of your property or similar properties, they establish a value.
Okay.
Presumably that value, called fair market value or arm's length value, reflects the value of the property.
Okay.
Okay? And that value also presumably is affected by everything that's involved or encompassed in that property, whether it's waterfront, not waterfront, whether you're on a private road or a public road, whether you live close to the center of town or far out from the center of town. All those things are considered to be represented by what that value is based on sale of your property or neighbor's property or property around you,
Right.
okay? So, and that's it. That's what the value is based on, and the assessment is based on that. So there is no arbitrary provision for knocking 20% off your assessment because you live on a private road. That devaluation is already presumed to be built into the sale value because somebody
Because
else,
it's a dirt road as opposed to a public road? Is that what you're saying?
beg your pardon?
Because it's a private road and not up to the same standards
That
compared to a
presumably-
public road? Is that what you're saying?
presumably is reflected in the value that neighbors of yours are paying for similar lots in your neighborhood, okay? So it's
Okay.
all built in. The only mechanism for assessing is the actual sale values, historic sales values, all right? And it is assumed that if I'm coming down and buying a lot next to you or a house next to you, that I'm considering the fact that it's a dirt road, that it's a private road, that it's waterfront.
All right.
There may be this advantage or that disadvantage, but the price I'm willing to pay for that is presumed to be a reflection of the value of that lot. And Maine Constitution says that's what you got to base the
I don't dispute what you're saying. It makes sense to me. But the town used to maintain that based on the same philosophy before, that it was a dirt road and it was maintained, but the town maintained it. And yet we still pay the same taxes as equivalent to person on a public road. And right? So it still goes down.
When they first decided to stop taking care of the private roads, and I don't have the paperwork with me, and
Yeah.
maybe the law's changed.
Uh-huh.
But the town, and we came to the selectmen at the time, at least a few of us did, and there is a certain percentage that the town can take off for your valuation
Okay,
because of you have to maintain your own road.
okay.
And the selectmen at the time said, no, we're not going to do that. There was a provision in the state law for that. Whether it still exists or not, I am not sure, but we can check into it.
Well-
So is that something that all these road associations could do some type of a civil action lawsuit against them?
I would ask first that the town said no again and not just take my word on what they said 12 years ago.
I think your better opportunity is to come to the town meetings, to contact the people on your roads that are able to vote and bring them, because that 42 people decided what was going to happen with all our money last year. We need people to show up and voice their opinion.
But I still think,
And-
Cindy, that this is something that we could check into.
Oh, yeah, we'll check
Okay.
into anything.
Okay, appreciate it if you would. I'll follow up with you to make sure,
Yeah, as long as we have your information, we'll be back in
yeah,
touch
you have my
with
name, Ken Wynn down there.
And I might be
Right.
totally wrong now. This was 12 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
They don't have to do anything for the selectmen. But if we got voters, and we got the associations together, and had a voting block,
Yes.
at some point, they'd have to listen to the planning board association, because voting is what happens.
Exactly.
If you're not going to town meeting, then you really have no say. If you vote, you go to town meeting, you represent it, that's when things get done. People listen to vote, not just an act in Maine. This is everything. You have to have a voting block.
That's right.
That's right. There's plenty of people that live on these private roads that are residents of Acton.
Yeah, if you identify your own voters.
And have them get involved with what's going on in the town, and that way they'll be represented people of the private road for what we do. Because I generally think that this group here wants to help.
Isn't that what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Yes, what we're trying to do is get help to these roads. I feel plowing is important. I think that's something that we could do that would benefit everybody. And plowing is a key way to take the burden
Right.
off the roads.
And the Board of Selectmen meet every Tuesday at 5 p.m. The best way to get your voice heard is to be there Tuesday at 5 p.m. The more the merrier, and the masses are going to make the changes.
I think Tom wants to give his democracy speech.
Al Peterson, Hawk Road Association, Wilson Lake. I know I don't want to repeat the same things. Everybody knows what we've all gone through. We've been going 10 years now. We're lucky we have 100% participation. We came on just as AWA, which you want to look for state funds and so forth, get a hold of Linda Scherer, Acton Wakefield Watershed Alliance. You'll get state. We were lucky we had 2 state confrontations in there. We got 2 culverts put in. Wilson Lake Association helped us out. We've been lucky. We only charge $100. We got 38 on there. We're kind of a unique road because if you come off 109, that's Hawk Road, but that's town road. And when it comes up to the first culvert we put in, now it becomes private road, which we can understand because it's 1 car length all the way down. But you come off of Garvin Road, and we're like a highway. We're 2 cars wide. It could be plowed, which we'd like to see done, and it's wider than some of the town roads.
It is.
Yes, it is.
I rode over it, and boy, the bottom is
And we
surprise.
put a lot of work and money in there, and I just wanted to get the Hawk Road involved and say that, we'd like to see plowing on that end if we could go along, instead of jumping through all the hoops and everything, trying to get it through the selectmen and the town hall and everybody else is approved for a town road. But the part coming off Garvin, probably down a half mile to the turn, and we have a spot where the plow can turn, could be plowed. And there's 3 people that live on there. 2 of them retired, one's 75 with a bad back. And that would be helpful for all of us.
Now, is the bottom part of that plowed, the single, between the 2 sections? I know the town plows down from 109, and you guys come in from
They
Garvin.
plow down to,
Do you
yeah.
just stop there and nothing gets plowed there on the lake over the
We
winter?
pay for our own plowing, private plowing. Our road's
Okay.
clear all year round. But the
way-
association
all
doesn't,
the way around?
association doesn't pay for it. We pay for the plowing. So it's a
Now,
cost out of our pockets that
How many
live
of you are
there.
paying for the plowing?
4 of us.
4 of us. Yeah,
Yep.
that's, yeah.
And on the town side, there's 5 of them that live over there, 5 residents year round.
And how many properties on your road?
We got 38 paying,
But only 3 of them for the plowing?
4 of us for the
4
plowing.
of them, okay.
And actually, 1, 2, 3, 4 are all in that stretch going down on the clear side.
Yeah, and that's a good piece of road.
Yeah, it's a nice piece of road. There's nobody on the lakeside.
No.
That's all summer residents. 80% of the road is summer residents. You know, and like everyone else, we're living in our own little state down there. We take care of everything. It's like a different country from the town because we get nothing. We've had nothing for 10 years.
And it always falls back on the same people. I've seen road after road. Yeah.
And that's about it. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Just wanted to get that acknowledged.
Tom's got something he wants us to comment.
Oh,
I wanted to insert something about the assessing.
Can you waive it?
If I may for just a minute, there is a place in the process of assessing where assessors can make errors. I spoke to you folks a little while ago about how property values were determined by sales of your neighbors, okay? It depends upon how they group those, whether that actually represents your lot or is not representative of your lot. And what I'm suggesting is, if they include in that group of homes that they're looking at when they assess your property, homes that are on a public road or different from yours, and one of the reasons would be because they're on a public road, then you have a basis for stating that your assessment is not correct, not valid. All right? And that you have to talk to the assessor and ask about the model, but I think you understand what I'm saying, right? If he includes in his model for establishing your value homes that are on public roads and homes that are not on public roads, then the two don't match because they're not equivalent, okay? And if he's using public houses on public roads to base your assessment on, then you have a legitimate claim, okay, for an abatement, and I think that may be the issue that Dennis was going to. Is everybody clear? Okay, I'll shut up then. Thank you, Cindy.
My name is Arnold Murray, and I'm from Langley Shores Drive. Our association was formed in 2004. We have 38 people, 5 that don't pay. The dues are $300. Trying to tick off all this. But we have had, over the years, pretty good success in fixing the road. We actually were way ahead of the town. When the town was just grading the road, we didn't like the way they graded it because they just graded it and they'd kick up all the rocks and never put any fill on it. So it was always, so we decided we wanted to do it ourselves. Every year we have the road graded because it's mostly gravel, and when the plows plow, when the ground's not frozen, they take the crown out and give you a berm on the end of the road.
right.
So it's graded every year, and it's compacted with a vibrating roller. We have, over the years, replaced all the metal corrugated culverts in there. They're all plastic, smooth IDs. We have paved 2 sections, thanks to AWWA. When in 2009 there was a Acton Salmon Falls watershed survey done on all the lakes, and it determined what kind of stuff was going in the lakes, where the pollution was coming from. I was on the survey. You look for like green spots where the green growth, where the culverts went. They determined, FD Associates or FR Associates determined Langley Shores Drive was contributing over 6 tons of dirt into Great East Lake. We have pictures of every fall we would put hay bales out on, we have 2 steep hills.
Yeah, I know you do.
And when the water runs down them hills, it used to bring all the gravel with it. And we used to put hay bales out there. And I have pictures of when we went for the 319 grant of the piles of sand that were behind those things. But the town gave us nothing. Great East Lake Improvement Association gave us $2,000 to help with that. The same thing they did with Lakeside Drive. It's the town don't help at all. We have over $13 million worth of assessment on our road. And at today's mill rate of 13.6, it's over $130,000 in taxes we pay. We have 4 residents on the road. All the rest Well, last weekend it was beautiful. We had 11 people here. Most people are gone. And I've been to the selectmen before, and they say, oh, you got this, you got the dump. Well, the people that are around me, they take their rubbish home. They don't even go to the dump. They come up for the weekend, throw it in the back of the car, take it home.
Right, the dump is closed on Mondays on holidays anyway, that's
Yeah,
not
well, it's
very
just an
helpful to the
inconvenience
people.
if you're going, west from where I am on Great East. We'd go to 16 and down, go out to 16 and down 16.
Sure.
So it's a lot. And, there's some of the things that, it's not really realistic that they're gonna plow all the private roads in town now.
No, I don't think that's.
Years ago, the people in this town, they appreciated people. I remember I told Dennis the other day about Charlie Wagner was one of the nicest guys you could ever meet down on Redgate Road. And when he moved up there, they started plowing that whole way, all the way down Redgate Road, because he lived way down the end. They'd tell him now, tough, you know.
Remember Gurdon King?
I remember Gurdon King.
Where we're at. Gurdon King is what made our road what it is.
Yep.
Continue from
Yep, Gurdon.
people who took care of the taxpayers.
Oh, he was wonderful, and he was
Yep.
very supportive of all these roads, and when nobody else was.
But I can't see why the town can't help with, like, buying culverts with their purchase power, or, getting gravel, so we have gravel, so we don't have to, at least we're taking care, show us something that we get for our money. We get nothing.
Exactly.
There's
Well,
nothing we get.
The town can buy culverts through the state cheaper than any of us can.
Yeah.
I don't know why we can't negotiate, get a list of whatever we might need and be able to buy better. We might be able to combine efforts on equipment. I don't know, this is all new. We're gonna do the best that we can, because I see the need on my road and on all of them, and we're in good shape compared to most roads.
Yeah, our road is fine now. Like I say, everything's up to, we got it pitched, all the culverts are armored, it all drains to one side, goes into green areas and everything else. That's fine. I would like to ask the audience something. In a town I went to last summer, they had a non-residents taxpayers association. And they had a separate section at their town meeting that they had for them. And I'd be interested to see, by a show of hands, what about a Acton Private Roads Association, where everybody will get together, have a stakeholders meeting, come up with some of the things that we should do, and we should be able to have enough people in a voting block that we would definitely have power. You go to the town meeting, and there's not even 50 people there. It's a joke. There's not a democracy. There's nobody there.
Well, I'd love to
That's
see
what was
that.
suggested.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see, is an association of associations.
How many people would be interested in getting a road association, Acton Maine Road Association, have meetings that we could get together and, put some ideas? My wife would kill me, but I will try and spearhead this. If my name is Arnold Murray, and if you got a notation, I'll give you my phone number. He's gonna shoot me.
Hey, I'll
Hey, can I respond?
Sure.
Best way that you can get anything that you people want is to get your residents at the Board of Selectmen's meetings, Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's you're still taxpayers.
You're still a taxpayer.
They have to allow you to speak. You can't
yes,
vote.
It's the only way you're going to get anything done, and you really. And what we're
exactly.
trying to do is to get you guys a voice through the Board of Selectmen. It's the only way you're going to get anything done.
Oh, I
Collaborative
Yeah, I mean, if,
I do
Right.
too.
I mean, like I say, I mean, you go to the town meeting, I said, there's 50 people there, it takes 26 votes to pass the
By the time you
budget.
get to the town meeting, the deal is done.
Right, right.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just saying, that's the interest that other people have in the town.
Right.
Yeah, you go to the warrant, you gotta go to the warrant and finance committee meeting, you gotta be involved.
Right.
You
We're
can't just
beating
sit
the-
back, and so we could get an association going, and it's a lot of work, but some people can help, and,
If you could get your association and have the group of you that's okay, you go the first week, you go the second week, so that you're not, you don't always have
Well,
to be at 5 o'clock. We're trying to get
yeah,
them to
that's what
change
you
that,
do with a
too.
stakeholder, you get everybody together, and you
Right.
just write down everybody's
The
thoughts.
main thing to do is have a representative at every single meeting to spout what you want.
Yeah.
Well, let's schedule that, get a date, and get it out to everybody.
Well, you got
And,
everybody's,
first get-
could I get a copy of all the email addresses?
You certainly may, 'cause we can put you right in charge of this.
You're hired.
Oh, good. Good.
But if you'd give me a copy of that, I will send a letter out, and I will talk to Jennifer about maybe getting this hall someday. And I know a lot of people, summer's over and they're gone, but
Well,
we-
these are the people that are here that have to take care of
Right.
it all winter. And we're the ones that get the phone calls from everybody else wondering what's going on at their camp, and we check. You're really the gatekeepers that are here in the winter that take care of things. I got one email here that I was requested to read at this meeting. If you can put up with
All
me
right.
for a minute, and that will give Kilty Road a voice. And this is from Doug and Sheila Ross on Kilty Road in Acton. We are writing this letter because we're seasonal residents of Acton and cannot attend the Wednesday, September 27th meeting. We would not have even known about this meeting if a friend of ours in Shapley hadn't sent us a notice included below. We have been notified by mail of other town meetings, but not this one. It would have been nice if the people who use the camp roads, mostly seasonal residents, could have been notified by mail and the meeting held on a Saturday in the summer when those residents are in Acton. As seasonal residents of Acton, we are very concerned about the condition of the camp roads. For the past 12 years, there's been no maintenance by the town of Acton to the camp roads we use. Many of the roads have deteriorated to the point they are almost not passable. In an emergency, time is of the essence. This leaves residents who depend on these roads to access their property at risk in case of fire or medical emergency. Emergency vehicles would have difficulty going over these camp roads. Great East Lake is known for its excellent water quality. It's the most important thing to preserve the water quality of Great East Lake and all our water resources. The erosion of these roads is not good for the quality of the lakes to which they provide access. At the very least, for the taxes we pay, we feel the town of Acton could apply gravel and grade these roads to make them more passable and prevent erosion. Please read this letter at the meeting and contact us if you have questions. I spoke to this woman. They're here and they've come from many years. They're not wealthy people. They inherited this cottage. It's a family thing. They're paying over $5,000 a year. They're only here for a few weeks in the summer. These are the kind of people I feel we can try to help and do something. I've ridden down their road. It's difficult. It's off of the Man Road. The Man Road we used to maintain. If we could get into perhaps taking care of the Man Road, it would provide better access to this road and several others that branch off of it. This is something I'd like to bring up, and I'm hoping we can have something together in warrant form that we could take to the Warrant and Finance Committee and to the selectmen and hopefully get on a ballot for us. If we're unable to do it that way with enough of us, we can get signatures and put our own warrant up and go. But I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I know it's getting late.
Cindy, before you close off the meeting, I'd like to say,
Go ahead.
it's very hard for me to sit this long at a meeting and not talk a heck of a lot more than I talk. There's a few things out there that I'd like to address. The road committee has been labeled by certain people in town as anti-road commissioner. And this committee, to the best of my knowledge, does nothing but support both road commissioners on both ends of town. The road commissioners do as well as they can do on the roads with the amount of money that the people give them at town meeting, okay? And it has been said, especially lately, that I wanted these people on private roads to come here because I want to stir things up in town. Well, the truth of the matter is some people may remember my wondrous days as a selectman, I met with a lot of the road associations and road association members, and I never believed that we had to stop helping these people on these private roads, whether it was plowing them, whether it was grading them like we used to, every road in the summer. I always felt there was a way that the town could get around the law that the state come up with. And Shapley has done this. They've done it from the beginning. Dick Nass and Bill Gannon, when Dick Nass was up in the Senate, they worked very hard to change some of the laws to give a little more flexibility for the town to be able to spend funds on these roads, basically due to water quality. And so there are ways that the town can do this. The other issue we have is this road ordinance that we adopted is utterly ridiculous. There isn't anybody, even us as taxpayers, could ever afford to build a road to those standards. Now, whether this is true or not, last year, I believe at a selectmen's meeting, when they were talking about Milton Mills Road, one of the road commissioners said that the state said it's cost $1 million a mile to build that road. Very well could be. But what our road ordinance says is that you have to build it to that standard, because our standards are the state standards. I think that the road ordinance needs to be revisited. I think it needs to be more accessible to the people of this town. When we have 70 to 80% of our taxes coming from these people, okay?
Is there a known percentage of what the percentage of taxes is from private roads?
The town could do that. Myself personally, I couldn't. But
Somewhere between 70 and 80% of the
between
money.
70 and 80%.
Yes.
That's right.
And I
That's
have
right.
been wanting for many years for these people on these private roads to get together and not go after the town, because it's your town. You guys are we're the ones that pay the bills. And work together and find a solution for the people on these private roads, so that I know, like, for example, on the Flat Ground Road, we tried a road association. It was just a big cluster. The town owned property on there at the time. They fought the road association. The road committee for the town fought the road association. And so we have no association. Okay, it's 1.5 miles of road, which generally, like Mrs. Snyder said, I usually plow and grade and do whatever. It's not right. And it's kind of like Sean Hannity would say, it's forgotten many. And I don't think it's right. And I hope that these people sitting here tonight will work with the road committee, because I know myself personally, I'm more than willing to work with you and do whatever we can do to help everybody that pays taxes in this town. Thank you.
Dennis, you know, you speak of the road committee and the selectmen. I had to stand in front of the Shapley selectmen because when Acton walked away from Cattle Street, they had this little agreement that Acton plowed all of Cattle Street, including the Shapley piece of it. And then when all of a sudden, 2006, when they cut that free, we weren't just looking at private road, Acton, Cattle Street, and all the residents down in all those roads. We had this chunk of road from the intersection down to there with nothing, and it's a town road. And I went to a board meeting there, a selectmen's meeting. Dickie Goodwin stood behind me, sat behind me, and because I'm nervous as a church mouse, but I stood up and I explained what the situation was and that we're in a bind. And I said, you know, maybe Acton could throw a few bucks in to help with that. And they said, we'll take care of our roads. We have a moral obligation to all people, even though there's not one driveway that comes off that road at the time. And what they ended up doing is they took over the road, summer, winter, and Dickie Goodman stood up and said, this is something we need to do. And they cut us down to where Butch Lawrence, you know, where the town line was, and then of course right before he retired, he came in and we fixed the road correctly. So it's perpetually taken care of now. But that's what we had to do. You know, we did this in front of a selectman of Shapley, a different town, because of that circumstances, and it was successful. But you stand up in front of the selectman in this town, and it's an automatic negative feeling the minute you stand in front of them. They don't have anything to do with us other than collect the tax dollars, because they're afraid that if one person is successful in one group, that means all groups are going to come at them, and then they're looking at this. Now they're going to be inundated with all the road associations and what to do. Because up in Wyndham, they plow. These people are responsible to do the summer maintenance on their road and work on the road. But the Wyndham will go in on these ways. They got public easement. They go in and they plow these roads. At least it's something they can do.
That's right, and that helps the people with the least money that are here year-round, that very often, we had, on one of the roads, we had a single mother with 2 children. She was the only one that would pay for plowing. She lost her house after a couple of years, but that was so sad, and I feel so bad that people would behave that way. And they let her. She had 2 kids. She had to get them to school and herself to work. And I just think Acton people are better than that. And if there is a way, we need to find it and take it and get back on these roads. And we've lost the oversight because some people have absolutely no idea how to maintain them, and they're maintaining them poorly, and that hurts all of us.
I have a question. Do we know what the total mileage is of private roads?
Approximately 25 miles, approximately. There are listed 111 private roads. Many of them are just driveways with 1 or 2. Jennifer is getting together a list for us of what she has. I want to review the town maps. When we did a town inventory before and we did the private roads, we used the 911 maps. We went through. This is something that was done 8 years ago, and then it disappeared, all the information. It needs to be done again so we have an inventory. We can identify the problems. We can deal with them systematically and economically and protect everybody as best as possible.
How much is public road? You know, you said 25 miles of private road. How much is public road? How many miles is public road?
We've got 39 miles of town road. We have another 10 miles of state aid road and 5 miles of state road.
So the private roads pay for 80% of what goes on.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're the cash cow. And I think we need to feed it and take care of the cash cow. Because you're what makes everything else in this town work, and without you, we got nothing.
Board of Selectmen meeting.
You know, the thing of it is, still, is if we didn't have the know-abouts to create these road associations like we have. I'm from Langley Shores Road Association.
Sure.
continued deterioration of these roads, I mean, you know, the assessment on these properties is gonna go down as the water quality goes down in these lakes and ponds around here too.
Yeah,
Where's the town then? Then they're not gonna have any money either.
that's right.
I mean, it only makes sense that the town would be involved with that.
You have the golden goose, you feed it. It's 8 o'clock.
Go ahead.
It is an option if the townspeople want to make it an option.
It can be an option, absolutely. And that involves us writing it up and going, turning up and voting. And we'll work with you. But it's late, and I think we've got a lot to absorb, and I thank everybody for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in touch.